In every book of the Torah, except for Bereshit, we have the discussion of the holidays. And it's interesting to notice the difference between the different books and how they discuss those holidays. In parshat emor, in our parsha, in Sefer Vayikra, is probably the most extensive discussion of the holidays throughout the entire Torah. Here they're called the Mikrei Kodesh, the times of Kedusha, and this definitely fits with the general theme of Sefer Vayikra, which is the fact that we're trying to find Kedusha. We start off with the Kedusha, the holiness and the sanctity of the Beis HaMikdash, of the temple, and we move on towards the sanctity of a society in last week's Parsha, in Parsha Kedoshim, and in this week's Parsha we talked about the sanctity of time. And the sanctity of time is found mostly in the holidays. So these Mikrei Kodesh, if you look at the structure, it seems like a very simple understanding of simple structure. It's in chronological order. We start at Pesach, and we go all the way through the months, all the way through the holidays, until we get to Sukkot. Very, very clear structure. However, if you look closely, there are two very strange lines within this entire thing. The first strange thing is you notice that we have the holiday of Pesach, and then Shavuot, and then there's a line in the middle that has nothing to do with holidays. We discussed the laws of agriculture and giving to the poor while you're cultivating your fields. What does that have anything to do with the holidays? Afterwards, we have that separation, and then we start talking about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then we have Sukkot. Now what's strange about Sukkot is that it's split up into two parts. The first part of Sukkot discusses Sukkot, and then afterwards it says Ele Mikrei Kodesh, as if it finishes the entire parsha. It gives a final line that says these are the holidays, and then as an afterthought it brings up again Sukkot and tells me a little bit more information about the holiday. Why would Sukkot be split up into two? So these two questions, if you just look at the structure of the psukim, you find two very blatant questions. Why is it separated by a pasuk about giving agriculturally to the poor people? And another place, why is Sukkot split up into two different parts? If you think about it, the holidays of the Torah actually can be split up into two different systems. We have the first system, which is called the Shalosh Regalim. The Shalosh Regalim are mentioned as a three in a number of different places. You have Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. The common denominator between these three holidays is, number one, the fact that they have agricultural connection. They have a connection to the agricultural schedule of the land of Israel. They start off with the cutting of the wheat and the cutting of the barley, and then afterwards they end off with the bringing in of all the produce into the home and Sukkot. So it's a clear agricultural cycle that has to do with the holidays, as well as the fact that these holidays, either explicitly in the Psukim or afterwards by Chazal, are connected to historical events. Pesach has to do with Yetziat Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt. Shavuot has to do with the giving of the Torah, and Sukkot has to do with the fact that God has sustained us and took care of us while we were in the desert on our way out of Egypt. The other set of holidays are the holidays of Tishrei, which is the holidays, the high holidays, as we call them, Yamim Noraim, which just starts off with Rosh Hashanah, Yemei Zikaron, a time of remembrance and din, and then we move to Yom Kippur, which is the time of Tahara, of repentance and becoming pure again, and then we end off with Sukkot, and Sukkot has to do with seemingly the Shalosh Regalim. Now it could be that the reason why Sukkot is split up into two is because actually it's part of two different systems. It's part of the system of Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, which has to do with agriculture. It has to do with recognizing God within the world, within historical events, as well as within our personal parnasa and our working with the land. But it's also part of the discussion of Pesach, of Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, the high holidays. And that's why it's split up into two, because it has two different aspects. One that can connect more to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and one that connects to the Shalosh Regalim of Pesach and Shavuot. That also explains why there's this line in the middle that has to do with agriculturally giving back to poor people in your land. Because these holidays of Pesach and Shavuot have to do with how you deal with and how you work with your agriculture, and how you notice the fact that your agriculture and everything that grows comes from Hashem. And that's why giving to the poor from your produce also has the same theme. While it separates between those holidays and the holidays that have nothing to do with agriculture, which is Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. Sukkot, that was a fascinating idea. Sukkot is both a time to recognize the spiritual existence that we have, as well as connecting it back to our relationship to the land and our relationship to God through historical events and through everything that we're living in. And this is the pinnacle, this is the point where we see both the spiritual relationship to God as well as the physical relationship with God. Eventually they're worked on in two separate times, Pesach and Shavuot and Yom Kippur Rosh Hashanah, and then they come together and forge a unified, synthesized ideal on Sukkot. Shabbat Shalom.